I wanted to talk to us about the introduction of femininity to the boy child, to the son. And if you have a husband, it would behoove, or if you're dating, it would behoove you to know, right? It would behoove you to know the type of man that you're getting, and how he grew up does play a humongous factor in how he is how he's going to be as a spouse. Okay. So it's different for everybody. And I'm sorry, guys. I know it has been forever since I have been on the mic. It has been a long time since you have seen me on a live video by myself. It's just been a lot going on, and my life has been moving in such a way, but I have been just intaking more and more information. I have pages and pages of notes of things that I want to talk about and teach. It just wasn't right timing at that point. So I'm sorry. I know it's been a long time. Okay. But I want to start off by saying something that is a little bit triggering and going to be controversial. So before I even say this, get into that, this is another thing I want to say. Nothing I say is blanket. Nothing I say is cookie cutter. Nothing I say is going to just automatically fit for everybody. This is not a one size fit all lesson, right? No lessons are one size fits all. So having said that, being at the fact that it's not a one size fits all, I know the negative Nathans and the negative Nancys are going to come and be like, well, not me and not my brother and not this person. And that's fine. We know that. We know that it's not going to fit for every single person, but there is a statistical majority that these things do come into play for. And I speak to the majority. I don't speak to the people that slipped through the cracks, so to speak. That's not my audience. I do enough research. I do enough looking things up, enough statistical information to know that it fits for the vast majority. Okay. I am not going to be long tonight. I really just want to get a point across. So what I'm going to start off is saying something super triggering and controversial. Okay. And that statement is, I'm not even going to say it yet. I'm going to wait. Okay. I'm going to wait. But what I'm going to speak to today is exactly why I feel like single parent households are not the way to go. That might be the controversial statement. I don't think single parent households are the way to go. And I think we need to leave baby mama culture by the wayside. At this point in life, it's not serving us, and it's definitely not serving our children at all. Our children are the ones that are suffering from single parent households. Okay. So back when we had parents, and it was our parents' parents, it wasn't even our generation, it was the generation before that one. There were families, right? Family was the structure. Family was the goal. Family was what you were reaching toward, right? And now it's like this generation wants to downplay family. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but it's like they want to downplay family. And so the family structure is no longer important. And I guess it's because a small percentage of some families had abuse in it. But that was not the norm or the statistical majority. Yes, there are going to be abusive situations in any situation, but that doesn't mean that we get to throw the idea of the family unit by the wayside just because there were a couple families that experienced abuse or financial abuse, or the man worked, but he felt like the wife had to stay in the house barefoot and pregnant. And by the way, some women didn't mind that. Y'all are the ones that think that's abuse. There are some women that thought that was great. Okay. So we as a culture, and I'm just going to go ahead and say we as a culture have glorified baby mama culture. We're the ones that glorify it. We're the ones that think having a baby by a guy actually is more important, or even trumps being his wife or his significant life partner. We feel as though once we have the kid, we have carte blanche to the man. And that's a little weird, but hey, I digress. That's not the point of this show today. All right. And when I speak to baby mother, don't get offended, everybody, okay? Let me explain, okay? I am not speaking per se to the woman that has had a child by a man that they were in a super committed relationship with, a man that they were super committed to, a man that they live with. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about baby mama. I'm talking about a baby mother. I'm talking about a woman that was messing around with a guy, in and out, in and out, in and out. They were never together, never had a relationship status, never had anything that said they were in a committed relationship. And then you go on ahead and you have that man's child. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. We all know that certain things just don't work out, and that's fine. But a baby mama and somebody that was in a relationship and the relationship didn't work out, those are two totally different things. Okay, so let's break this down, shall we? Like I said, I don't want to be long tonight. One, I want to get back home to my family. Again, that's my son calling. Like I told him I was doing a video today, and yet he wants to call. Crazy. But I just want to get back home to my family and kind of cook dinner. So that's another reason why I haven't been up here like that, y'all. I just been wanting to be home. Okay, so let me break this down, okay, Xiaomi. Let me explain to you a slight difference for the naysayers and the ones in the back screaming, well, if you get married, it don't always work out anyway. If you get married, y'all could get divorced, so you still a single mother. Wrong. Not the same. And let me tell you why. And this is going to be the basis of our live tonight. Let me tell you why. When a man is in the house, right, a husband or even a committed boyfriend, his presence being in the home alone without many words still sets precedence in that house usually. So men usually are not the ones doing all the talking. They're not the ones that are Susie homemaking. They're not really doing much in the house when they are there. However, their presence alone sets a precedence in the house that isn't defied. Now, I'm going to get a little bit deeper into that. So just because the man is there, his physical body is in the house, there is still authority, direction, and discipline that's passed on and set with the children, period. We all know that. We all know that our kids act better when their dad is around. They, for whatever reason, will cry when you drop them off at school. When your dad drops them off, everything's all good. It's crazy, but there is discipline, direction, and order that is set in the house just for the man's presence being there alone. Okay. Then at the same time, they're being loved and nurtured by the mother. This creates a balanced child. Whether it's a male or female child, it creates balance in the child because they're receiving direction, order, and discipline, as well as love and nurturing. Got it? All right. So the difference in having a child with a man that was never there, right? So you had a baby by a guy, he was never there, and he's only in and out, or he was a paycheck, if he was even that, or he may be none of those things. He may have never even showed up. You just had the baby and he, ran and got ghost, who knows? But either way, this cultivates and creates a different type of child, okay? So now that I've laid at least a little bit of that groundwork and a small bit of foundation, let me get to the point of this video, which is why we're here, right? So a man's first introduction to femininity in itself is his mother. And this is going to affect his perception of women as he grows up and becomes a man. It's also going to affect how he responds and relates to women once he becomes a man. Okay? His first introduction to femininity is his mother. And that's period, because that's the first woman and the first feminine or female interaction that he gets a hold of at a very, very, very early age. Okay. So let's look into femininity, right? And let's look at how it looks different when there is a man that actively operates in his masculinity and what femininity presents itself like next to that. All right. So when a woman has a man that operates in this way, again, this is not a blanket statement. So let me just say it again. Femininity looks different and presents itself differently when it is operating actively next to a man that operates actively in his masculinity. When the feminine pole is around a man who operates in his full capacity of masculinity, she presents herself differently. Okay? So when a woman has a man that operates in that way, she is soft, she's submissive, she's cooperative, and she's compliant. Okay? The problem comes in is because most women have not experienced this. So she's created shells, she's created shields and toughness and hardness, and she does that to protect herself. Now, what we then don't realize is that although creating those boundaries and those walls and everything, there was a reason for why you did it. The fact is when that man does show up in your life, you're supposed to actively drop that as soon as you can. This is where a lot of women fumble the man, because they end up with a man, right? And then they've created all these shields from their trauma and having to be tough. And then when they get with a man that operates and actively operates in his masculinity, he does not know how to take that, and he definitely won't want to tolerate that. So then we end up losing a good man because we couldn't let down our sword and shield that we use to protect ourselves. I digress. That's not what this is about today, but I just wanted to, throw that out there. Having said that, so the male child that is brought up by a masculinized mother becomes a certain kind of man. Let me give you and show you some examples. So this man, he watches his mother struggle. He watches her break her neck to make ends meet. He watches her do it all alone, right? Without the help of any masculinity at all. He watches her stress. He watches her cry, or he hears her cry. He watches her become overwhelmed. He watches her fall down and pick herself back up every single time. The picture of his mother to him is strength. The picture of his mother is power. The picture of his mother is, how many times have we heard a man say, my mother did this and did that and did this, and she did it without the help of a man. My mother's a strong Black woman. My mom's a strong Black queen. My mom's strong. Listen. When you put strong next to the feminine pole, you're actively changing her role right then and there. Okay? This woman also has to act as a woman and a male for the child. So not only does she have to give the love and the nurturing, she has to try to also implement the discipline, the order, the control. She has to lay down the ordinances of the home, the rules, the regulations. She has to be both poles, okay? But what we don't understand about the feminine and masculine pole is that the masculine pole is not meant to take orders from the feminine pole. It's just not a thing. The masculine pole is not meant to take orders from the feminine pole. This is where it all gets lost in translation, okay? Hear me out and wait for it. Let me cook, all right? So as this male is quickly becoming a young man, because as a little boy, he's not a man yet, but he's definitely becoming a young man, right? He begins to lose respect for his mother as the rule enforcer. So I'm not saying that he loses respect for his mother in general. What I'm saying is that he loses respect for his mother as the rule enforcer. Meaning, you need to be in this house at 9. And he's like, yeah, I wait on it. That type of thing. Yeah, okay, Ma, I'll be back in at 9. 2 a.m. he's strolling in. Once they become a young man, and that's usually around the 16 and a half, 17-year mark, where they have actively gone through puberty, and in their mind they are a man, the rule enforcer as the mom no longer really works. Okay, we need men to do that part. So because the mom is like, hey, I need you to do this, I need you to get in the house, I need you, and he's like, sure thing. If his father was there, his father would be the only person that would be able to implement that rule once he becomes a young man. Because again, men don't bow down to, men don't take orders from the feminine pole. They only take orders and are willing to take orders from another masculine pole. It's weird, but it's just how they work, y'all. I don't know. I didn't make the rules, okay? So as a mother, a single mother growing up with a young man in the house without a father, that son is going to become lawless because he no longer will listen to you. That's how it works, okay? They understand, and this is a reason why I can tell even with my own sons, my 19-year-old, my 23-year-olds, as they begin to grow up and they start to watch and learn about life, they quickly understand at a young age that we think differently. We look at, oh, of course we could go. We look at life differently. We respond differently to most situations. We don't act the same. We don't respond the same. So they begin to understand at a young age that we're not really the same, right? So this same son is going to grow up and take on a wife. This is where it gets sticky, y'all. And this is why our marriages, this is why our relationships are in the state it is today. It's not that deep, but it's deeper than most people are willing to go, all right? So that same son who grew up, watched his mother struggle, pick up, make ends meet, do it without help, do it for the strength of the home, cry, toil, weep, and then still get up to do it again another day. This same man is going to take on a wife. And guess what? He will then expect his wife to do the same things his mother did. Even though his mother didn't have a man around, that's why she had to do it. He actually doesn't realize that she's not supposed to be doing those things if he's there. He don't get it. He's like, well, my mama did it. My mom woke up, did this, took the trash, did it. Sir, your mom had a totally different situation than you did, than you have now, than your wife has. You cannot take on a wife and then want her to take on the characteristics of your single mother. It doesn't work like that. So this particular man doesn't even understand his role, doesn't even know his role as it relates to the feminine. He doesn't realize where he actually fits in because he never saw it. He only saw his mom's role. He never saw the role of the father or the masculine pole in the house. So he's going to expect his wife to work hard, super hard, work just as hard as him. He's going to expect her to feel stress, and being and feeling overwhelmed as a woman is actually normal. And it's not. He's not going to understand that it isn't normal for a woman to work as hard as a man does. And he's not going to understand it because that's the only thing that he's seen is a woman and a mother working super hard. So this is the part. This same man will want the respect and the submission and the compliance and cooperation of a wife without offering her his portion in return. You can't want cooperation, compliance, submission, and all of these things when you're not offering your portion that deserves that. His portion is supposed to be relieving her of the pressures and the burdens that cause her to operate outside of stress. This man doesn't really understand anything because he wasn't raised by a man. And unless he gets, I know people are going to ask, well, what about my husband? Because my husband too. But there are exceptions to the rule. And I'm going to tell you why. If this man was not raised by a man, but some men are not raised by a man, but they have mentors. They have father figures. They are in a church or underneath some sort of ordinance, and they have a spiritual father. And that will change the game from them because that man will show him the way. They will show them the ropes. But if you have one that only grew up with his single mother, he's not going to understand the role, his true active role and his initiation into manhood. He's not going to understand that. He may have had uncles and things like that. If he had that, then consider him lucky, okay? So if he didn't have any of this, your relationship is going to end up being a catastrophe at best because you guys don't understand the roles at all, okay? And when I say the roles, I'm not talking about domesticated roles, who cooks and cleans. So please, let's not talk about that. I'm not going to get into that. That is based on the laws of your own home, okay? We're not talking about domestic roles. We are talking about masculine and feminine role here, okay? So let's look at an example of the son who grows up with an active father. And these are distinctly different. So for instance, in my household, my father was a man of very few words, right? But when he spoke, that was actually law in our house. When he spoke, everybody listened, right? and there was no defying the law. And if you defied the law in the household, there were active consequences to that. And the consequences depended on what the charge was at that point. You know, like me, I snuck out a couple times. My brother got into some fights a couple times, and the consequences, they were always there, but they were different based on what we've done, right? So this particular son sees his father work hard and his mother work minimally. He sees and understands that his father's voice means business. And that his mother's voice may raise, right? Because our voices are raised. We just are emotional people. We raise our voice, but it's with love and empty threats, you know. And boy, if you don't get up there, I'm gonna pop you. No, you're not. You're not. And boys at a young age actually understand this. He also sees the sacrifice that his father makes so that his mother can rest and be soft, right? So let me give you a quick example. So every day, so there was a situation where my husband was working in New York a lot, and I had to take on the role of taking my son to school every morning. He has to be at school at 7:15. And then I would go straight to work. And then after work, I would come home and I would be so tired. I would lay down, I would take a nap, and then I would go back and get him. Now, originally, what I would do is I would go drop him off to school, come home, cook his dinner. By the time it was time to get him, dinner was ready. Well, now I am exhausted. Not exactly sure why, probably the weather change. But my husband must have noticed it, because he was like, hey, I'll start taking him to school in the morning. I'm all good. I can do it for you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh my God. I so appreciate that. He's like, yeah, you know, you can get a couple more minutes of rest, get your beauty sleep. You know, you can have a nice de-stress day. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Great. Right. And so then one day I was going to leave to go get him. He's like, no, I'm going to pick him up for you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm realizing, oh, I could cook dinner. When he gets in the house, have his food ready. Because before he was coming home and then I was cooking. He was eating later. We all were going to bed later, and it was all on me. And so my son says to me, so he says, no, I got real duty. We're good. And I'm like, oh, until when? He's like, until things change, until something changes. Okay, great for me. I'm appreciative. Thank you so much. But my son says to me, Daddy's gonna be taking me to school and picking me up from now on. And I said, yeah. He was like, why? Is it because you're tired and you're exhausted? Because he probably just wants you to rest. He probably wants to just take it away from you. And I'm like, my son is all of literally 11 years old. He just turned 11 3 days ago. So I say that to say that even at a young age, your boy child understands the role of a father, right? So that's just a mild example of a child understanding that the father is taking away responsibility so that the mother can rest and be soft, right? So this man understands the authority of the home, right? He understands that it flows down from the man with the mother enforcing it. And when it's time for delegation, he delegates the authority to the son. It never actually goes to the woman. It goes from the father, bypasses the woman, and goes to the sons. That is when you have a man that grows up with responsibility, accountability, and that is how he gets his initiation into manhood. When my husband does something, let's say my husband takes the trash out. Oh, guess what? Our son's old enough to take the trash out. So guess what? The father tells the son, take the trash out for your mother. The father tells the son, go grab the groceries out the car for your mother. It's not the mom saying, oh, come get this stuff for me. Come do this for me. Come get this for me. Because again, the masculine pole does not take orders from the feminine pole well. They will do it because they have to respect your authority because you're their mother. However, once they become 16, 17, 18, 19, they're doing it out of love and compliance alone, not because you're ordering them around. And that's what we need to understand as women. Our authority in a man's life stops very early. I don't know if you guys watched Bridgerton and you saw that even when the father died, the son became the next duke. And when she was delivering her child and she couldn't deliver the baby because it was breech, they asked the son what decision to make. Like, are we saving the mom or the baby? And he said he didn't want to make the decision, listen to whatever his mother said, but that's because he wasn't ready. But his position was to make the decision on that. He had the authority to make the decision on that. And he was all of 17 years old. So again, our authority as the feminine pole stops in a man's life when he becomes about 16 and a half. Okay. All right. So now that we understand that they understand, the men, the boys understand the delegation from the fathers to the son, this is how young men and boys start to realize the responsibility of a man. They learn it young. They learn that the father is the authority, and in no way should your mother be yelling in a young man's face when the father is around. So let's say my 12-year-old, my 11-year-old becomes 15, 16, and he gets in the house at 2 a.m. And I'm like, I told you to be in this house at midnight and you got in at 2. What are you doing? I would never. Why? When his father is right there and I'm looking, he gonna handle it. And he's gonna handle it how he sees fit. Good luck, little boy. Hope it works out for you. Once they get to that age, that is not something that we should be able to do. And us as mothers have been doing it for so long that now when these men are growing up, they feel like it is normal for a woman to be irate, yell in your face, mush you, talk to you a certain kind of way. And that's because they grew up without the authority of the father. So the idea of the feminine pole in a man's life, his introduction to femininity, depends on the type of mom he had. Was she a single mom or was she a married mom? Was she a mom in a committed relationship? Was she a mom that lived in the house with a man that knew his role as the father, that knew his role as the husband, that actively operated in his masculine abilities and tendencies? Okay. The father normally handles the discipline. The mother is there for the reinforcement. So again, you know, my son had did something on the bus. He was like, got caught cussing on the bus or something like that. And when I had gotten home, my husband had already disciplined him. Whatever that discipline was, I don't know. But with the discipline, I was like, oh my God, now I'm feeling all bad. I'm like, oh my God, that probably broke him down. He's like, he didn't cry. And I'm like, he didn't? He's like, no, he didn't cry. He just ate it. He took it. Now then we go into the room. He says, okay, so you know what I did earlier. You know what happened, but tell your mother what you did. The moment my son has to tell me what he did and why he did it, and as I start to question him and go, well, do you think there was another decision you could have made in that moment? My son immediately starts to weep. And my husband was fascinated at that moment because he was like, I actually disciplined him. He didn't cry. And you talking to him, all you did was talk. Your voice was soft. You were not yelling. And he immediately began to cry and feel remorse for what he had done. This is the difference in the power between masculinity and femininity in a child's life and how that child responds and grows up into his manhood. Okay? Even with the delegation of things in a household, y'all, the son should be helping the father. And in assisting the father, they're inadvertently already helping the mother. And that's how they learn their role as a husband, by being a mini husband growing up. But if you watched, or your man has watched his mother struggle, cry, weep, struggle, oh goodness, he is going to feel like that is normal. He's going to feel like this is what women do, not realizing that you're only going to perpetuate a cycle of having a very masculine wife and you operating in a very neutral role as a man, meaning like, well, she can work as hard as I can. I mean, we both, one line I cannot stand is, yeah, we both do this. You get the check, I get the tip. You get the bill, I get the, sounds nice. Sounds really good. Yeah, it does. But it does not always work out. It doesn't. The woman is never supposed to work as hard as a man. I was just on the phone with my sister the other day, and we were talking, and we were saying like it's statistically studied that women need more rest than men. We need more sleep than men because, again, our bodies do different things. So a man has testosterone, a man has adrenaline, A man has dopamine. A man has all of these chemicals that are charging through his body every day so that he can fight, flight, do what needs to be done as a man, and then his body can generate and regenerate overnight. A woman's body is only meant to regenerate and generate when she's with a child. So we all have our strong points. They're just in different ways, but we cannot continue to take on the way of the other and think it's going to work out for us. Men saying, oh yeah, soft life. How you think that's going to work out for you? Because soft life creates soft things, and women don't like men with soft things. I didn't mean it, but I kind of did. Soft life creates soft things. My hands are softer than my husband's. My feet are softer than my husband's. My body is softer than my husband's. I don't want him soft. Nowhere. Okay? So, when I hear men say, oh yeah, soft life only, that's not for y'all. Y'all adopted it, but it wasn't for y'all. And when I hear women say, oh, I want to work and be at work all the time, that's not for us either. We can love working. Proverbs 31 woman works all the time. But her priority was just different. It was her household. It was her kids, her family, things like that. So, just watch out, okay? Ask your potential mate, your potential dating partner, just talk about how he grew up and what he saw and what he would deem different if he were to do it differently, okay? So many of us have grown up without the masculine and the feminine pole in the house. And the behavior of the children that are created is so very drastically different. So in the same way that men are saying they don't want to date women that didn't grow up with a father, I would actually say the same goes for men too, because how do they know how to become one? Now you got your special ones that'll be like, I'm going to be everything my father wasn't. But then they also can run the risk of crossing the line and being too lenient as a father as well, or being too giving as a father because their father didn't pay them any mind or didn't offer them anything or give them anything, so it still creates a different kind of man. Even when I met my husband, I knew that his father was not around. He had a stepfather that was on the abusive side. And that actually scared me a little bit. But then I also realized that at a very young age, he connected with a spiritual father that I love dearly. And I've known since I was a kid. And I was like, okay, he got that other balanced part as well. And I also knew that he was a very principled man because he had gotten into church very early. So I knew that even if he get left, he gonna go left just to get back right. He's not going to be left for forever because he's a principled man. He lives his life by principles, and he's not gonna go against those principles for a very long time. Understand this, that men just don't grow into manhood. They are initiated into manhood by responsibility, who they decide to secure and cover and protect mentally, spiritually, and financially. That is the initiation into manhood. Who are they taking care of other than themselves? That is the measure of a man. It is one thing if you out here saying you just taking care of yourself, that's cool. But who else are you taking care of? Who else leans on you and relies on you other than yourself? That is the true measure of a man. Okay? So I am so sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. I knew that this internet was going to act up. Apparently, it doesn't want me to be great, and I had to switch over. But thank you so much for just being here. And those who were not here, it is fine. I hope you can catch the replay. I tried to get out a lot of information in a short amount of time, and I will be doing another video soon. And I'm also going to be doing one once a month with my friends. It's going to be called Wife Talk. And we're going to talk about all things wifely and, the type of men that, we're married to and how we navigate and deal with those men, because Lord knows you're special. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing night, and I will talk to you and see you guys soon. Bye.